All right. How is this for a treat, ladies and gentlemen? We got a tandem interview, brothers from a fighting family. So let us say hello to the number 9 ranked featherweight in the UFC, the former UFC bantamweight champion, Aljamain Sterling. And also let us introduce his brother, Kelvin Sterling, who is back in action this Saturday, LFA 204 at the wonder of it all, Foxwoods facing Rodrigo Brana, looking for his first professional mixed martial arts victory. Kelvin, Aljo, thank you for doing this. Good to have you guys on. How are you guys doing?
How you doing? How you doing?
Doing very good.
Kelvin, I want to start with you because just kind of going through the old pages, Tapology, etc. You turned pro in 2022. First fight was a weird no contest because of the accidental eye poke. So things didn't really get going for you. You tore your lung, you come back, you lose a decision in your return fight. And I know you've talked about how you didn't fight well that night. You weren't yourself, even saying, I tried to get out of the fight before it happened until everybody sort of convinced you to keep going. For 2 pro fights, man, like you could write a book about the things you've gone through, right? This is crazy.
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. I mean, it was definitely an experience. A very good learning experience, and obviously like you use that just to keep on pushing, you know.
I know, yeah, it's I mean, how can you not learn from that? And then on top of that, like I knew you were supposed to fight in September of 2023 and it didn't happen, and according to some of the pages out there, and I just want to make sure this is accurate, you haven't fought since. So if that information is so this is your first fight in almost 3 years, right?
About 2.5 3 years, going on 3 years. Yes.
So,
I mean, I have done a few like little tournaments here and there, like jiu-jitsu and, you know, not really wrestling, but I have been wrestling and stuff like that, competing in the gym and shit like that, but no actual fights.
Why is that?
Honestly, I think part of it was basically because I was suspended, and then part of it was just couldn't find a fight.
Life.
It was like it was like what kind of, was it like a medical suspension? What was the deal there?
I really don't even know. I just, when I pulled out of the fight, and obviously like it wasn't just because of the weight cut, I kind of was, it was like destroying my body more so. I threw up that night and everything, and you know, but after that I just got a letter or an email saying that I was suspended and it was due to missing weight. But it wasn't really just because I missed weight. I didn't miss weight. I was literally dying.
So obviously you're cleared now. Why is now the time to return?
I'm only getting older. Time is eluding us all. Time waits for no man. I feel like I've always been ready. I took my first amateur fight when I only trained for like 3 months in the sport. I was never the type to shy away from a fight. I remember even the fight that you were talking about before, I threw up so much blood, and I called one of my teammates, which is Pumi Nakuda, and I said, yo, Pumi, I threw up so much blood. And then he was like, what you mean? And then we went to the bathroom, and I started throwing up more blood. He literally told me to call that fight off. And I said no, and I ended up still fighting that night. Me, so, like, lost in, like, space and time, I didn't even think to rehydrate after throwing up so much, or I just went out there and, you know, and tried to bang it out, but you know, it didn't work out so great.
And Aljo, you've obviously had a front row seat to a lot of this, and it's never easy to be a fighter. And apparently, it is exponentially harder to be a fighter with the last name Sterling, it appears. So, what have you taken away from the last few years of Kelvin's professional MMA run? The ups, the downs, the injuries, the throwing up of the blood, all of that.
I really just think it's just inexperience. You know, he's never wrestled like I did and my other brother. So learning how to cut weight the right way. I think he was just in the wrong weight class, trying to come down to 135, and just learning experience, how to cut weight the right way, how to rehydrate the right way. He just finally started eating pasta, which is hilarious. So yeah, you got little things like that makes it a little bit more difficult. So then when the fighter in the cage is not showing up, the one that's in the training room, you know there's something that's going on that's not connecting the dots. So I think he's figured it out now. I'm actually really looking forward to his return to see how he does at this weight class. Not cutting as much weight and just feeling more like himself in the training room and seeing how this performance goes.
Kelvin, you just started eating pasta. What's going on here?
He's been missing out, man. He's been missing out. I try to tell him.
Kidding.
I can honestly agree. Like, I have been missing out. I've been missing out, but you grow up and you're not used to certain things. You try to stick to what you know, and you just stay in your comfort zone, but you don't grow like that. So
you can't rehydrate on just bone broth. It's just not.
Honestly, even that night when we went out to dinner and you were trying to force me to eat, and I'm like, man, I can't eat. I can't eat. It ain't gonna be nothing like that. I'm lining up the pastas. I'm lining up the carbs. I got the Pedialytes waiting for me already. So
I'm a little different. I eat pizza. I eat ice cream. I eat chicken.
Wow.
I eat steak.
Wow. See,
I go crazy.
They're telling me to stay away from all of that.
Well,
they said it's too greasy.
I understand how my body works, so it's a little bit different. When I was cutting down to 35, you couldn't stop me from keeping food for my face, So now at 45, I don't cut as much weight. I don't get as big after the fight, and I think my brother's gonna find a very similar experience.
Do you see kind of a difference in Kelvin right now, this fight week compared to maybe the last couple, or even the one he had to pull out of? Have you noticed sort of a difference personality-wise in the lead up to a fight?
More energy. I think that's the biggest takeaway. More energy, more excited to be in there. Because once you get to fight week, you're cutting down from what he was weighing, his walk around weight to 135. I know that feeling, and you're like knocking on death's door. So if you're not comfortable doing that, it can be very difficult. So now I think this is a more invigorated, understanding. He's more in tune with his body, and I think that's just what it is. You want to do the things that you're doing in the training room, unless you're one of the guys who don't do well in the training room and then you perform under the lights. That's okay too. So I think this weekend is going to answer a lot of questions for us, and seeing exactly how far we could take this thing.
I mean, look at you, Kelvin. Yeah, Kelvin, you're lining up the pastas now. I mean, this is such a change, such a difference, right? How good do you feel compared to those other ones?
I feel great, man. I feel like I got a lot of energy. I feel like, at least when it comes to like me just thinking about my health and my safety, I feel good. I don't feel like I'm in any type of jeopardy when it comes to that. Like, I literally felt like I was dying my last cut, so it wasn't no game. It wasn't like I was trying to pull out. Like, they were trying to make it seem as if I've ever pulled from a fight because I was scared, or because, like, why sign the contract to begin with? Like, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't make any sense. Like, but we'll answer a lot of questions this weekend.
Do you know much about Rodrigo, Kelvin? I mean, he's making his pro debut. What have you learned about him? How do you like the matchup? Does it even matter at this point with the layoff and everything?
I get that ass whooped.
I heard he's Brazilian. They so-called said he's good everywhere. So, like the sparring said, let's put it to the test.
They so-called say he's good everywhere. I mean, they typically they say that about anybody you fight, really, for the most part. But you must just be so excited to make that walk and kind of feel like you're doing it right. You know what I mean?
I mean, like I said, win, lose, or draw, I finally get to showcase who I am. I get to go out there and I get to say, hey, I felt good. I performed the way I actually feel like I should have been able to perform. And maybe there might be some ring rust, maybe there won't. But I feel like that's all like hearsay. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you're on, you're on, and you're not, you're not. The layoff means nothing. If you've been training, if you've been practicing, especially with good guys like Saralongo teammates, you should be sharp. You should be ready to go, So I think I'm ready to go, and let's see if Brunner really is good as they say he is.
Yeah, and shout out LFA for giving him an opportunity, because obviously both of my brothers were on that last event and they both missed weight, so it was obviously a big thing, especially because the last name and everything. So shout out for LFA for giving us another chance, another opportunity, and I think they're going to be very, very happy with the decision that they made.
What's it like being the cornerman for your brothers, Aljo? I mean, you've cornered Rob and super close friends and guys you've been around forever, but what's it like being in the corner watching your own flesh and blood compete in the cage? Does it feel different at all?
It's always different, man. I feel like I get more nervous for them than I do for myself, you know, and not because I'm like worried about anything in particular. It's just I know how I train, you know, and sometimes I know the way I think. I'm just like, I just hope that they think the same way that I'm thinking when I'm in there. So you just never know. And obviously, it's a fight; anything can happen. And obviously, you don't want to see your family get hurt. You want them to have the same success or even more. So that's what it is for me. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be nice to be in the crowd, be back in the East Coast, and hopefully get a big W, celebrate with some Funk Harbor rum, and
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
have a great weekend.
Calvin, does this almost feel like your pro debut all over again? Now that
You
you
know
feel
what?
the way
You
you
know
do?
what? I was literally saying that. This actually feels like it's about to be my real first fight. Like, you know what I'm saying? So now, I'm glad you said that because it does. It actually does. You know?
So feeling as good as you feel, knowing who your opponent is, knowing what's at stake for you. How does this all play out when we're talking about LFA 202? Because the UFC is on earlier in the day, so we could catch both. We don't have to watch both at the same time. We could watch you fight right after the UFC ends in London. What's the headline going to read on Saturday?
It's going to read Kelvin makes weight with a bowl of food in his hand, and he gets the W. Hopefully, I can get my first finish, but, you know, let's not get greedy and just go out there, be safe, and take care of business.
Domination is the theme for this weekend.
Yes, yes, sir.
What is the long-term goal with this, Kelvin? I mean, you're 35 years of age. You even said to yourself, you're not getting any younger. Time is a fickle beast, and it is undefeated. It doesn't matter who you are. So what are we thinking here?
I just love the sport. I wish I would have started it much earlier. I feel like if even Aljo would have started much earlier, he probably would have been a champion years ago. And like me, myself, I would probably be in the UFC already. But, you know, like he said, I didn't wrestle. I didn't play sports growing up. I was more so like in the streets and shit. So
Street pharmacist.
I'm sorry?
As a street pharmacist, feeding the streets.
Yeah, so anyway, like,
get your daily dose.
But yeah, like for me, it's like I'm forever gonna love this sport. As you see, there's certain champs and fighters out there that's still fighting in their 40s. I mean, Glover Teixeira, I think, became a champion in his 40s. You know, I plan on doing this until my body says no, you can't.
Make it up for lost time, essentially.
Exactly.
And Aljo, while you're here, you're coming off of a hell of a fight with Movsar Evloev. Didn't go your way. Scorecards did not take your side.
He won that fight.
A lot of people feel the same way as your brother does, but it lived up to the hype. All the talk about, oh, these two guys are boring. You put that to bed, and I knew you guys would put that to bed. How do you look back upon that fight a few months later? The reaction to it, because it seems like it was a fan-friendly affair. People loved it. Didn't go your way, but people still loved the fight nonetheless.
Yeah, it was a good fight, and I'm happy we got to put on a good showcase for grapplers. And there was some good striking exchanges in there too. I think overall, people don't understand grappling because most of the time when people take people down, they kind of just settle on the guard, or the guy on bottom doesn't know how to get up, or he just holds the position, and it just makes it a stalemate, you know. So I'm glad we were able to put on a high class, high level performance, and I still feel like I didn't lose that fight. I think at worst it should have been a draw. I just don't know how a minute and 20, 30 seconds makes up for 3.5 minutes of everything else that happened in that third round. But either way, it was close. He's supposed to be the next champ, so I would love another crack at him or somebody else in the top 5, top 10, and kind of just keep plugging away from there. You know, I'm not finished yet. I still got some more goals that I want to achieve. Obviously, I'm doing other side adventures like my alcohol liquor business in Funk Harbor Rum, but
like the chain,
like fighting is still the passion. You know, this pays the bills. This is what I got into. This is what helped get me to where I am today. And nothing would be better than to have the icing on the cake to be a 2-division champion. That would make me undeniable. I think I'm undeniable with what I've done at bantamweight. I think we're tied for the most wins in bantamweight history, most consecutive wins for title defenses at bantamweight history. So I did some really solid work. It would just be nice to cap it off at 145 and show people like it doesn't matter. Like the skills is what pays the bills, you know? It's not just the weight. And even when I was cutting all that weight, I only put on 20 pounds, you know? So some of those guys were bigger than me in there. So I'm just excited for the future. I'm still waiting for an opponent, still waiting for a name. Hopefully it's someone that excites me. Fighting the up-and-comers that no one knows at this point in my career doesn't really make a ton of sense. It doesn't get me excited to get out of bed. Obviously, it's just a paycheck, but I'm looking for the fights that get you nervous, the fights that get you excited, the ones that you're worried about, that you get in there, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to give it my best, you know? So that's what I've prided myself on. I want to fight another ranked guy, highly ranked guy, and see if I'm still that guy at this division.
Yeah, it looks completely different, this division, than it did the last time you fought, because Ilya's moving up, which is crazy, and now Volk's fighting Diego Lopes for the vacant belt, and it's a lot of people thought Movsar should have been the guy getting that, especially after beating you. When you heard that this is the fight they were going to make, what was your reaction to it? Did you feel like it was right? Were you surprised by it?
I was surprised because I thought the guy who beat him should have gotten the next shot, especially because he fought twice that year. He fought twice in 2024. He beat a former champion. Close fight, but he still beat a former champion. Yeah, Diego had a great fight against Brian Ortega. But I don't know. I don't make the rules. Obviously, he's got a more fan-friendly style, so I think that's probably what it was. And of course, he stepped up on short notice. So I give Diego his respects in that regards. No fighter in their right mind is going to turn down a title shot because they think someone else deserves it. He might not be the most deserving, but he's also very entertaining, and he's cut his teeth into this game in a really short amount of time. So it's going to be a fun fight no matter what. I lean towards Volk winning that fight unless Diego can catch him early. Ideally, I thought it should have been Volkanovski versus Mosar and myself, maybe against Lopez, or Lopez versus Yair Rodriguez or something like that, just to keep the division moving. Because when you get a guy who, I don't want to say cut the line, but you get everyone kind of knocking out other contenders, and then you don't have anyone with a viable win streak. That's my thought process on the whole thing. But either way, it's going to be a great title fight. I'll be tuned in. Hopefully I can get tickets to get down there. I would like to watch. May the best man win, and Jason House could suck it.
Yeah, what is it, Kelvin? You probably have seen the suit. What the hell's going on over there? Like Diego, you, Jason on Twitter, back and forth. Like there's obviously three sides to this story because there's three people involved. But from your perspective, what happened? How did this all begin?
Me?
No, Aljo. If you want to hop in, Kelvin, and give your explanation too, but like, I'm sure you've seen it, Kelvin. But for you, Aljo, like, where did this all stem from?
Go ahead, Aljo.
Someone asked me, and who do I think was most deserving? And I said Mosar. I was like, but then I also said, Diego's not wrong for taking the title fight. They offered it to him. You take it. You take that and you run. You know, that's a golden ticket to change your life. Great eyeballs. You get an opportunity to get championship pay-per-view points and all this other great stuff that comes with the notoriety of becoming a champ. So I don't know how they misread the tweet as me being bitter or distasteful or whatever. But then they started going back and forth. And I'm like, Jason, you are one of the house guys in the company, and you do a lot of shady stuff that a lot of people talk about just behind closed doors. And, you know, I'm not trying to air out anybody's dirty laundry, but I'm like, yo, if you want to go there, we could go there. Like, but don't try to get me blackballed from the events because you don't like the things that I'm saying that are true. But I guess he might have thought I was threatening him. I don't get paid to fight managers. I don't get paid to fight guys outside of the octagon. So there's nothing there. And I even told Diego, like, I've been very cordial with him. So, I mean, it is what it is. If they got something to say, we'll see in person and we'll talk about it like men and go from there.
All right, Kelvin, big question for you. And I know Aljo's here, so the pressure might be on, but I have not been able to try Funk Harbor Rum yet. I'm sure you've had possibly a taste or two. How is it? Give us the review.
I tasted the limited edition dark Funk Harbor Rum. I didn't taste the light. And it's actually smooth. It's smooth. I'm used to drinking, I guess, Ray and Nephew growing up. Not too much of it, obviously. These things are like toxin. I don't really drink a lot of liquor, but when I do indulge, I would say, like, yeah, it tastes kind of like cognac, like Hennessy, but smooth. So
yeah,
I would
It's
thumbs up.
it's
Thumbs
aged
up.
in bourbon cask, ex bourbon cask. So
Okay.
it's got a taste of like whiskey, bourbon. So if you like something to sip on, this is a really nice one to get. And of course the white rum actually smells like Ray Nephew when you pop the bottle. It's just not as strong, which is great. This way people in the States can actually enjoy it, because if you don't have like a Jamaican Caribbean palate, overproof rum could be it could be off-putting for some people. But for us, we like it. It's strong, straight to the point, and it's a good product.
What's been the more surprising journey for you, Aljo? The MMA journey, rising through the UFC, the surprises that come with MMA, or the surprises with getting a liquor company off the ground?
I think they're both very difficult in their own regards. One is physically difficult. One just gives you headaches, So trying to go through like all the red tape and everything, all the legalities of everything in the liquor business is very different. It's a different type of, because I can't fight it out. I got to figure out ways to kind of navigate around it and get everything on the up and up. Where fighting, man, it's just a physical grind. Camp after camp, injuries, surgeries. Weight cutting is probably the hardest fight, and I enjoy both. They both have their gratifications when you get to that finish line.
You see Kelvin moving up to a comfortable weight class. We see Ilia Topuria moving up to a comfortable weight class, vacating the featherweight title. As a guy who was champion in one division and then moved up, what's your advice to Ilia Topuria as he prepares for his lightweight journey, Aljo?
My advice to Ilya would just be keep doing what he's doing. Put the size on. Don't definitely want to come in there like a 45er. You want to put the size on. You got to get a little bit stronger and fight like himself. I think his power, the one time he fought at 55 against, I think, Herbert, whatever, he knocked him out after getting dropped. So I think there's some growing pains with that. But now with the experience that he's had, the championship mentality, beating two of the best guys at featherweight ever, I think his confidence is on an all-time high. So it's going to be exciting to see who he fights at 155 if he's not getting the immediate title shot. I think a matchup with Oliveira would be very intriguing. So we'll see. There's a lot of fun matchups. And now that he's gone from 145, it opens the door wide open for guys like myself, so I'm very excited about that.
I was actually hoping he fought Patty.
Oh, it could happen.
That could have been a good one, but Patty, I don't think he's as highly ranked or highly. I don't think he's as high up as Ilya is right now.
If he beats Michael Chandler,
then of course
we all have to put respect on his name.
Of course.
Oh yeah. Ilya versus Patty. If Patty wins, Ilya versus Armin sounds awesome. Like, what a gangster move that would be if you just like, nah, I'm just gonna give up the belt. I'm gonna go up to 55. I'm gonna beat Armin, then fight for the belt. And if he beats Islam after that, like, that's insane. Volk, Holloway, Armin, and Ilya, or in Islam Volk. 4 and Volk. Jesus, that's ridiculous.
That's a killer's row right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Kelvin, before we let you go, final message to Rodrigo Brana as you prepare to collide with him in the LFA cage at Foxwoods this Saturday.
Jacob Banks, the song Monster. They won't see me when I'm coming.
As they say in the great television show Seinfeld, you got to leave on a high note, and I think we just hit it. Kelvin's melodious singing tones, Aljamain's great advice. Make sure you check out Funk Harbor Rum. Make sure you check out LFA 202 this Saturday on UFC Fight Pass. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate the time. All the best to you guys this week. I appreciate it.
Likewise.
Thank you.